the okay. Okay, recording. Welcome everyone. My goodness, we have 28 folks joining. Welcome, welcome. This is an exciting topic. So I'm going to introduce our speaker, Terena Bell, and then hand over to her. She'll take us through a few slides and, tell us about her experiences, her advice. I'm taking notes, by the way, so I recommend you do that. And of course, we can reach out to her. Terena Bell is a book publicist and fiction writer. As a publicist, she's secured clients coverage with The Today Show, Good Housekeeping, NPR, BookRiot, and a whole bunch of others. Her own debut short fiction collection, Tell Me What You See, published by Whiskey um, Titles. It was published in December 2022. It was recently named one of the best books of the 21st century so far by New York Society Library. That's a lovely
Wow.
commendation. Yes. And of course, she's given her website at terenabellpr.wordpress.com. It's her website. And with that said, I'm going to hand over to her. And you can, each of you, control your screens and make it speaker view if you would like that. Or if you want to see all of us, that's fine too. The screen will toggle automatically as she shares some slides. Okay, let's roll. Go ahead, Tarina.
Hi, everybody. I am really glad to be here with y'all today. Thank you for coming. I'm going to ask you later, why on earth are you here? And you can either share that with the group or you can write it down. But wait. First off, some ground rules. This may be a little differently than Zooms that you've been in before. I have found that we all know college classroom etiquette, but with Zoom, things really changed. And I worry sometimes that people have quit participating. And the thing about it is, this isn't a lecture, this is a class, like a real Socratic liberal arts style college class, where we're all going to learn together. And if you're not learning, that's two people's fault. It's my fault because I'm not giving you information you can learn from. And it's your fault because you're not telling me, hey, Terena, we know this already, let's move ahead. Or, hey, Terena, do you mind to go back? I'd like some clarification on this. So if everybody can kind of turn off the way that we've trained our minds for Zoom, where you just sit there for an hour and then you turn it off and you go, well, that was okay. And instead, we're going to participate. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them when you have them. If you put them in the chat, I'm not going to see them. If you put them in this new crazy feature that Zoom has called Q&A, I'm not even going to know how to access that. If you raise your little hand on Zoom, also probably not going to see it because I'm focusing on you. So just unmute yourself and ask a question if you have a question, just like we did in school. All right, we doing good? Everybody all right? All right, I'm not getting any verbals. Let's practice those unmutes. Everybody doing all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Doing great. Yeah.
Yay. We're not going to have a problem with this crowd. All right, so that said, who's ready to learn a little bit about publicity and PR?
Me.
All of us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yay, I love you people already. This is going to be wonderful. Okay, great. So the reason why I'm here, Nev pretty much said it. I'm a writer. I started as a writer, probably like a lot of y'all. I wrote my first story when I was 5. It was all about the happy, sad day. And, without getting all into it, my grandmother put it on the refrigerator and my whole family loved it. And the early praise did me well. So when I finally published, I had been a PR rep working for the world's second largest translation and AI data collection company in Midtown. And like the vast majority of everybody else in the city, when COVID hit, I lost my job. So we published the collection and I'm like, okay, I've got PR skills. I'll just use those to promote my book. And I didn't really go about it the way that, like somebody at Harper would, who does the exact same thing with every title or the checklist or sticking ARCs in the mail or whatever. I just did what I did at the company that I had worked for, and it wound up working really well. And at a certain point, my publisher kind of pulled me aside and she said, Terena, she said, you're actually better at this than the people we've been paying. Have you thought about doing this? And I'm like, well, I need a job. So all these years later, here we are. So that's how I wound up getting into it. And I'm continuing to just kind of take instead of, oh, you have to be on BookBub, or everybody says you need to be on Twitter, or have you done a Goodreads? Like, instead of going through all those checklists, I've kind of just kept doing things with as much of a common sense approach as I can think of. And that's pretty much led me to what I want to share with everybody tonight. So real quick before, and this is where I will successfully start to share our screen and you will all be able to see my little jumbled up mumbled slides that don't look beautiful, but it's because we're going to skip through. Like, we don't need to know who I am already. I'm right here. Okay. So let's skip ahead real quick to, can everybody see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And there may be a way to like maximize this. I don't know. Anyway. So real quick, things that I'm not going to be able to help with tonight. All right, so if we think about publicity as a type of public relations, and public relations is a type of marketing, all right, I want you to think about food, all right? So marketing is like produce, okay? Public relations is fruit. Publicity is an orange, right? So we're looking at concentric circles where we've got types of things, right? So basically, like, marketing is pretty much everything you can think of to market your book. That's going to include your website. Nev was kind enough to mention mine earlier. It's horrible. Don't judge me. I'm not a website person. I'm not going to be able to answer website questions tonight. Whereas your public relations, like anything paid, is going to be in marketing. Public relations is pretty much what it sounds like. You're relating with the public. It's anything that's going to be a conversation back and forth. That's going to include like conversations you have on social media, but not whether you buy Facebook ads, okay? Publicity is basically what the public thinks of you as a result of this conversation. So those two inner circles I can help with. If somebody has a bunch of questions about Facebook ads or other things that are just, like should you have a logo? Like what about your website SEO, and things like that. As they relate to the inner parts of those circles that I do know about, I can try to help. But I'm a fruit man. I'm really not going to be able to answer a bunch of lettuce questions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right,
yes,
great.
absolutely.
So unless you think I'm a fruit already, send your fruit questions to me. But I don't. Sorry. All right, I'm not a humor writer. So now is when and part of why this is really important, and this connects to what we're going to talk about the whole rest of like the hour or 45 minutes or whatever time that we've got until Nev goes, Basically, if you don't know what you're looking for or hiring for or trying to do yourself, you're not going to get it. And so, like, say you do want to work with somebody else, right? Well, if you don't know, like, where a blog tour fits into all of that, I would say it's somewhere between standard marketing and public relations. You don't know whether you should be talking to blog tour people. If you're spending your own time on it and you don't know what you're wanting to do, you won't know what terms to Google, all right? Success, basically, in order to know that we've succeeded, we have to be able to measure success. And in order to measure success, we have to know what success looks like. And a lot of that comes down to goals. So this is where I want to know, why on earth are you here? All right? Why did you come to this? And you can share, why you wanted to learn about PR. You can write it down to yourself. You can put it in the chat where, again, I won't see it, but the rest of you probably will for the parts when I get boring, because that's kind of what it's over there for, is to read, right? But just kind of think to yourself, why is PR interesting to me? Maybe you're here because you come to everything that MWA offers, and that's why
I want to sell books.
Yeah. All right. So, because you went on and jumped there, and I couldn't see who said it, but congratulations. And thank you for being honest, because I'm so sick of the way this industry can go, well, but nothing really sells books. That's bullshit, which I just remembered from recording, so I apologize if you're going to have to bleep that. But again, giving you a warning this time, it's bullcrap. Anyway, no, you can actually sell books. Like anything that is for sale, if you're not selling any of it, people are doing things wrong on some level, okay? But, you know, why do you want PR? We've got one person who says, well, I want to sell books. So be thinking about those answers, and it's time for the Family Feud. All right, we've got cozy writers on one side, we've got noir on the other. All right, so I have polled 100, not really 100, but 100 prospective client writers and asked, so why do you want PR? We've got 6 top answers on the board. And number 1, somebody's already given, ding, 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 sell more copies. All right. So what other reasons? What do we think are those other 5 answers on the board?
Get good reviews.
Huh?
Get good reviews.
Get good reviews. Okay, so why do you want good reviews? Just to have them, or
it'll sell more books?
Okay, to sell more. See, you're already jumping ahead to why do these reasons matter, and it's because they dictate what actions you take to get the outcome, which in that case would be reviews hoping to sell books. Okay, so what other reasons? You know, because the thing about it is, what I found, and this is part of this is from me being a reporter, which was before all the AI PR stuff. But when I was a reporter, they always told us you have to ask why 3 times to get to the real answer. Okay? So when we get down to like what those core whys were, well, to get reviews. Well, why do you want reviews? To sell more books. And maybe sell more books is like the leader in this group. But you know, not just yourself. You don't want to talk about yourself personally. That's fine. But what other reasons might somebody want to do PR or publicity?
Increase exposure.
Oh, sure. That's what I was going to say.
Increase exposure. What do you mean? Like, obviously not Times Square naked man variety.
Like name recognition, you know, to associate. This is a mystery writer, a traditional mystery writer, or a cozy mystery writer, to get your name out there with the other top names. It's like, well, if you like this author, well, this is a new author, to gain that exposure.
Okay, so exposure and getting your name out there for what purpose?
Well, it goes back. I mean, ultimately, it's to sell books, you know.
Okay,
and if you gain, and it's another. If you gain name recognition, then there's more likelihood that you'll gain more reviews too, in terms of reader reviews, and also, you know, magazine, newspaper reviews. If they have a name recognition out there,
you could call that visibility in the industry.
Okay.
Or building your brand.
So again, like the visibility or building your brand, I would say what for? Because what I've heard here is sell more copies. But I had a prospective client once that he wanted to show his brother he could do it. And he wanted his name everywhere so that his brother would shut his mouth. So you see how like the why you want it is radically different, but it can look like that, well, I just want my name everywhere, you know. But
what about selling future books? Instead of your current copy, but so like your future success, building your future.
We're going to skip ahead. Number 3 is building your name so you can attract an agent so you can publish the next title. That's something I hear not as much from self-published people, because a lot of times that's a conscientious decision, but that's something I hear a lot from small press and university press writers who want to change in their career to the big 5. And so they're wanting to get an agent. So yeah, ding, 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 ding. Now we'll see that number 2 in between there that we skipped was to be read. And that's because I don't know well enough about Google Slides how to make each of our little Family Feud things pop up. I kind of wish I did, because that would have been a lot more fun. And I kind of feel like the fun element is dying down, but I hope it's because the learning element is replacing it. But yeah, a lot of times they want attention. Now, like to skip ahead on that one, well, name and lights. Yeah, we kind of talked about that.
I was going to say that to be asked to speak in conferences or workshops to promote your books in the long term, but I think that would be the same as your name and lights, maybe.
Now that's one that didn't make the board, but if I had a reason number 7, a lot of literary fiction writers who are also professors, it's because they want their name big enough to get tenure. And that is something that's speaking at all of these places is. So, so one thing that attention can also get you would be like to sell the film and or translation rights. Like if you look at number 5. But oddly enough, you have to know which of those 2 you're going after, because oddly enough, the actions that you take to get an agent are different than what you would take for film and translation rights, because film and translation rights often involve a scout, and scouts have nothing to do at all with whether your next book gets acquired. And then scouts also look in radically different places. Like a scout is going to look on the Publishers Marketplace deal report, and they're like an agent might look there, but they're not going to look there to steal another agent's client, So yeah, and then a scout also is going to pay a lot of attention to things post-public, like to pre-publication and buzz, and like the buzz books things that they used to do at BEA before the pandemic, and of course that whole conference is gone now. But anyway, don't want to skip over reason number 2, which is to be read. Now, anybody want to walk through maybe what the difference is between selling copies and being read?
If I just wanted to be read, I would put it out for free and tell everybody to go ahead and read it. But I would like them to pay for it.
Well, and that's one thing. Like being read technically even includes your book being pirated, which a lot of us, I think, would probably stand against, even if being read is a goal. Being read includes the library. Like you talk about people ideally not paying for it. But I'll argue that sometimes you can make more money through libraries than you can individuals. Because like how many of us, like how often do you buy more than one copy of a book?
No.
All right.
Almost never.
How often does New York Public Library buy more than one copy of a book?
All the time.
Right. And you've got a single point of contact for both. You've got a single point of contact for the consumer decision when you walk into the bookstore of your choice or log on to the website of your choice. That's one point of contact making the purchasing decision for one copy of your book versus one librarian making a single decision for up to 100 copies of your book. But it's funny. So like libraries can sell more copies, but also library marketing tends to fall under the being read. And I would argue that a lot of it comes down to like small library systems might only buy like a rule. Like I'm originally from Kentucky, hence the accent. There are a lot of little counties that have 1 to 3 copies of my book, and it's been read 20 to 30, it's been checked out 20 to 30 times. That's the other thing when we got to measure success. You never really know if anybody's read something. How many of you have ever been in a book club where there was at least one person who showed up and she goes, "Oh, I didn't even read it. I've just been so busy and the kids have gone in the garage. I'm just here for the wine." And she probably pirated it or checked it out at the library. So anyway, all right. So anybody want to guess what the 6th reason is? It's very New York. I'll be honest. It's very New York in its own little way.
Get the attention of book clubs.
Okay. Why would you want the attention of book clubs, to get back to the core reasons on things?
It goes back to they have to buy a lot of copies.
Okay. Anybody, it's really, really wild. Like if anybody guesses it, I will Venmo you $1.
Get invited to cocktail parties?
I would classify that under like name and lights, general fame, but under like, this is the thing, like the original Richard Dawson Family Feud, you had to get the answer perfectly. But like with the new Steve Harvey, have y'all noticed they're consolidating like 2 or 3 answers on one line? So I would accept that under name and lights, under the new Steve Harvey rules. I'm just going to go on and give it to you because it's really not something you'd think of.
Ooh, that's neat.
A genius visa to remain in the United States of America.
Wow.
With that, you're going after very specific periodicals. And tell you what, we're just going to say this. If that applies to anybody who's on here, just talk to me after. I was a very, very, very inquisitive student, and I was never one of those that was taught that like girls shouldn't ask questions. But I was taught that unless the question also might be of interest to another student, to hold it. Now, we're not doing that tonight, but if you're here for a genius visa, we probably should connect after. No shame, no shame. All right. The only reasons it's not a reason is because. And that's because gets you nowhere, unlike jumping off of a bridge when all of your writer friends get a book bub. If you jump off a bridge, you actually will get somewhere. You will dive down to the floor where you die. But the only reason that's not a reason in my book is because. And it's because whether you are spending money or whether you are spending your time, if you don't know what you want to achieve, you most likely will not achieve it. And, pin the tail. There's a reason that there's a difference between darts and pin the tail on the donkey. All right? And so if because is your reason, you're pinning a tail on a donkey and you're just spinning around a room with your eyes shut and you're going, all right? But if you're playing darts, you're a whole lot more likely to hit that center. All right? Everybody with me? We okay?
Yeah.
Questions? Okay. We're buzzing. I feel like we're really buzzing through. Are we really doing okay? Questions?
Yeah, we're doing good.
All right, super. With the way this is set up right now, I can see Marilyn, Marianne, and Al, and I'm seeing lots of nods from y'all, which is appreciated. But if there's anybody else who's really, really, really confused, I'm not also seeing your faces right now to tell that, so you're going to have to tell me. But I think we're doing okay. I mean, we've made it through Family Feud, and nobody's quit that I'm aware of.
Right.
Although if you did quit, I wouldn't see that either. So, all right. So let's talk about how this actually translates to what we do. All right. So different reasons for PR. Again, like we kind of started talking about this a little bit, like when we were talking about how a film scout may want to see your publisher's marketplace. Like I do know I had one client, he sold Russian translation rights through the publisher's marketplace deal report because the publisher in Russia actually would look at it and then look at the plot lines to see is any of this interesting to our audience. So that's something though that if you want to sell more copies, like how many readers on the street do you think have even heard of publisher's marketplace deal report? Like, do you think that that's going to sell more books?
No, not really.
Right. So what I've done, just for the sake of simplicity, is I've kind of grouped together, like all 6 reasons or whatever into pretty much 3 broader categories, because that's how it affects, like what we actually do. Okay? All right. So, whoops. Okay. All right. Let me move y'all over to the left, and I'll be able to see better. Okay. So, kind of look at this for a minute. Does anybody see anything that appears maybe in more than one column? Or anything that's unique to one column? Or does anybody want to kind of hazard a guess as to why something's in one place but not the other?
Terena, we can't see your screen. Are you sharing?
Oh,
we can see it. We can
I
see
can
Oh,
it.
really?
see.
I can't.
I can see.
sorry,
Oh,
Nancy.
sorry. That was just me.
You should check your different view options. That might be it because you can definitely see it.
Well, and I can try to, as I say, because I actually know Nancy, so I can try to email you a screenshot or something real quick, but I don't want to hold everybody else up as well.
If you
That's
if
okay,
you have the
Terena.
little zoom button on the bottom of your taskbar, hover over it, and you might have a different screen for that you can't see. Because like I have 2 screens. I have people on one and the presentation on another.
I was just thinking how surreal it would be to hear Family Feud music, but see no Family Feud board and be like, what on earth is she doing? Right.
Indeed.
So let's take one, for example, like SEO, like search engine optimization. Okay. Like that's not, by this, I don't mean driving people to your website. I mean that when they type in your name, they get you. Like they don't get like there are actually my parents made my name up, but unbelievably enough, there are other Terena Bells. They're all younger than me, so I like to call them my fans. But and they're all also Southern. But like when you Google Terena Bell, you get me now. You don't get like some girl in Mississippi who tried to have a YouTube country music singing career for a while. Like all right, so you've got like your Google card thing that comes up at the top, and you've got an overview. Like that's, if fame is your goal, that's where you want to go. And so let's look at how we got there. Well, I've got a LinkedIn over here. I'm doing some social media. This rural y'all thing in the middle, y'all can still see this, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
That's a podcast, right? So you basically want to do things that are online. All right, so let me look up a client, which I was on there already from my PR stuff, but let me look up a client who she wasn't on there at all, right? And her goal, she wanted for academic reasons to also get her name out there. This is a romantasy book. So this is her website in the middle. We've got actually a link to where you can buy her book, which is great. This Creative Writing Life was another podcast that she did. So basically it's saying, I'm kind of curious what happens if we click on this. Okay, so electric literature, that was like a list that her book was featured in. So you can see how basically if fame is your goal. Now, but going back to this though, now with CJ, she did have the Amazon link, but with me, there was no buy link. So you can see how that doesn't necessarily, like people pulling you up when they Google you, doesn't necessarily translate to selling more copies. Now, you would argue, like, say somebody meets you, like I see Carol on here. Hi, Carol. I met Carol at a mixer at the Society Library. So say I decided to go back and buy her book. If I can't find her on there, I might go, well, she was really nice, but I mean, for Pete's sake, but if I can find her, but in that case, I would argue that what drove the sale was our connecting at the reception, and that the other is, it's what we call pipeline, to where you think about marketing as a funnel and you drop somebody in the top of the funnel and then it goes through to the actual purchase, but so for those of you, Nancy, are you doing any better? Can you see us yet?
Yep, I'm back in business. Thank you for the suggestions.
Great. So what on here, is there anything on here that somebody doesn't really know what it is or would like clarification as to what it is in a book context?
I'm thinking national earned media. What's earned about it? Like I understand national media.
Yeah, earned media is like, okay, so who wants to give me a one sentence pitch about their book? And I mean that literally. Somebody give me a one sentence pitch about your book.
Okay, immigrant couple solves mysteries that talk about issues that are still relevant today.
Okay. All right. So let's say, and not to turn things political, but when you look at what's going on in the news, immigration is in the news a great, great deal. Okay. And so let's say, for example, that Newsweek is doing a portrait on the positivity of immigration, in light of, and immigration being vital to society. And will Nev March, author of book about immigrants solving crimes, says immigrants bring a very unique perspective to law enforcement. And if you look, 40% of Leos are or 40% of detectives are originally from countries X, Y, and Z, says Nev. And so then so basically it's an article on something larger in the news, and that includes industry news. And then it quotes you as an expert because your book is somewhat linked. Like I happen to know Nancy's been working, and I don't mean to call you out, I just know, that you've been working on a manuscript that is set during 9/11. So let's say we get to the anniversary of 9/11, and let's say that BookRiot or Publishers Weekly, is writing an article on, 9/11 artists remember. Well, Nancy Novick, author of Manuscript, took a romantic turn to it where 9/11 shaped the lives of these people, in the midst of their affair. So that's basically what it is. It's where the article is not about you, but you are quoted as an expert on what the article is about. And that's a way for people to kind of non-confrontationally learn about your book. Like a lot of times people can kind of put on their blinders and they don't want to be sold to, which is part of why public relations, my particular brand of fruit, is better for sales and can kind of get in there because again, it's about that conversation back and forth with somebody. Whereas an ad going blah, 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 they're just going to hit the little X in the corner and get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's a way of them going, oh, well, immigrants solving crimes, that actually sounds pretty interesting. I'm going to look this woman up. So then it gets them into the sales funnel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's earned in the sense that you have earned your inclusion in whatever article because of a certain expertise or perspective that you have.
Right. As opposed to paid media, which is where, like sometimes like you see the little fake articles and they're bylined with like a company CEO, but really they were written by somebody like me, and they're halfway poorly written, and it says at the top, like reasons you should buy insurance according to insurance people,
And then it says sponsored content.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And sponsored content is marketing. I do not do sponsored content. But if you look on here, you'll see thought leadership as something that points toward people getting read. And that's that same type of article, except it's a real article. Like with that electric literature listicle that C.J. Spataro, the author I pulled up a little bit ago, with that listicle, she's from Philadelphia. Her book is set in Philadelphia. It literally could not be set anywhere else in the world because of some things that are unique to their culture. And so she wrote an article for Electric Literature on, top 5 books set in Philadelphia and why Philly is great for fantasy, or whatever. So that's thought leadership when it's something that it's a little bit more newsy of a component, but really it's sales for you because you look down and you see written by CJ, whose book is set in Philadelphia, and then there's a little link for you to click on it and buy the book. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of in between the two. Yeah. And then earned media doesn't always have to be something that connects to your book. Like it could be something that connects to you as a person. Like with the CJ person, she's also a professor. So she runs the MFA program at Rosemont College. So one might even argue that my mentioning her a couple of times is earned media for her because now you've heard about her book, or that could be word of mouth. Like a lot of these areas get a little gray, if that makes sense, as to what they definitively are. And at this point, I'm just kind of talking. Anybody else got a question? I can keep talking,
Listicles. What are listicles?
Top 4 books set in Philadelphia. You see these a lot, like in Hearst publications. Like you used to see them like in Vogue and Bustle and, places like that. And now they kind of stick more to like BookRiot. But it would be, top 10 books written about immigrants or best 3 books of summer, that kind of thing. Those do sell because they wind up kind of functioning as checklists for people. And they come, if they're online, they come with these ready-made little Amazon links in them because the way that like Hearst or BookRiot or whomever makes money is they get affiliate commissions back from Amazon when somebody clicks to Amazon and buys your book on their site. So they sell books because they don't require any additional action from the reader. Like the reader is able to see it on a list online. They're able to click, they're able to buy it or put it in their cart or on their wish list right there, as opposed to like, say they do read a thought leadership article that's in a print magazine, and then they're having to remember, oh yeah, remember this, and that sort of thing. So, but the deal with thought leadership and why it sells books is because they can kind of fall in love with your writing style. Why it sells books that actually wind up getting read is that they kind of fall in love with your writing style and they get more into the topic and they're more like, oh, I want to read that, as opposed to like a listicle where somebody's going down and they're like, well, I'll put it on the to be read pile. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So my book is a modern day person investigating the Lindbergh kidnapping. And I've been thinking that I know a lot about it. I should put together presentations that I could do at like libraries and things like that. And then I guess what you're talking about here is like maybe write articles to try to get placed various places about the kidnapping and the investigation or things like that.
Well, see, and this is where I have to even stop myself and think, no, wait, what's the goal? Because my first thought on that is, well, libraries are great, but why are you not at like the State Historical Society? Because like
Well, I do that too.
right, and I'm assuming that you mean the Lindbergh
Yeah,
baby. Yeah,
the
okay.
kidnapping. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like to me, I'm like, there's all kinds of like little things like that. But then I'm like, well, hold on, wait, what's your goal?
Right. Well, the goal would be to get people interested in buying the book. So,
Okay.
for example, I wouldn't start doing the library tour or the talking tour or something like that now because the book's not, sold yet.
Yeah, but to me, like if the goal is sales, then your line of thinking of talking in libraries instead of just doing a signing. Because like the issue with like a library signing is that a lot of times people will just walk by and they're like, oh, there's some dude in the corner. And especially not like at New York Public Library or something.
Yeah, no. I was talking about I would have a 30, 45-minute presentation. It'd be informational come and then maybe I would be selling books there, or maybe the book would just be coming out soon and it'd say, hey, just telling people about it. And if you're interested, it'll be published in a month or two or something.
Oh, you mean like ahead of time?
Yeah.
I would recommend if your goal is to sell books, like as opposed to like the fame column, or even the red column, because you can have people being a little anticipatory. But if the goal is flat out to sell, I would wait until pre-orders are turned on. Because
Okay.
what happens, and this is part of what's really weird about our industry, because they tell people to start like if you look at the big five, they start marketing 1 to 2 years ahead of time. And a lot of that's because people's review stacks are that tall, and that kind of thing. But pre-orders don't flip on until 1 to 3 months beforehand, depending on your publisher. And if your goal is to sell, again, like not to be read, not to be famous, not to get a visa, if your goal is to sell what you're doing, like if I told you, hey, I'm going to be giving away free money, but I'm not giving it away yet, and I don't really know where it's going to be. That doesn't help you know where to go to get the money. It's like, I don't know, did y'all know Paul McCartney gave a concert like 3 days ago and tickets were $1 each, but evidently you had to be following him on Instagram. And I just kind of felt like I'm not even on Instagram. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, it kind of made me mad because I'm not in my 20s and 30s and I don't want to have to be at 8 in the morning. But I guess if you're Paul McCartney, you can do whatever you want to do, right? But the deal with that is, unless you were on Instagram at 8 in the morning and within, I don't know, like 20 minutes of Chelsea, you weren't going to be able to buy tickets for that concert. So anything that you do before pre-orders are open, if your goal is sales, it's not going to be as effective because people forget about it. They have lives, they go on, they do other things. They can't even put it in their cart yet and then ignore it and then get pestered emails from Barnes & Noble going, you left something in your cart, because it's not for sale yet. Does
Perfect.
that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
So in a way,
I have a question and something to build on that. Doug, you mentioned about writing articles and things for publications. My publisher has shifted from live events more towards writing for. I mean, on my last book release, I wrote everything from an article for the LA Times to, crime reads to, and on all kinds of related issues. It's not like on the book. It may be on a element of the book, or how you research nonfiction, or how you, true crime, or the history of bank robbery in Los Angeles, and then your book gets mentioned. And those publications are very good about running them with your release date. Like they know the game, and they're really good about supporting writers. And that's been a huge part is, I think with both of my books that came out, and we've got my publisher is Counterpoint Press, and they have a very robust, publicity and marketing uh, department. But yeah, that's one of them, is to get me out there and writing these things. And I think that's really good because everybody's looking for content out there. These websites and all these staff writers. There's half the staff writers that there used to be, and people are looking for content. So if you go out there and you say, "Hey, I got a book about bank robbery," which is what mine was, and then you just say, you just offer up what you can do. And it's just getting it all out there, and I think that's really good. Trina, what do you think about that?
Well, I was just going to say, Peter, you're actually bringing up a very excellent point, which is the timing of all of this and how sometimes you need to work ahead of when you actually need to work.
Yeah.
Because like the publications, part of why books are often done on a 6 month, 1 year, 2 year before release cycle is that if it's especially a print magazine, like things may be laid out, like 3 months ahead of time or whatever. And then to go back to like what Douglas was talking about with the libraries, like pre-orders may not be open, but depending on the library, like you can go on and book it, like book your, even like say pre-orders open in August. Well, you should be reaching out in March to see if you can get on the schedule for August. Does that make sense? Which points toward Peter's point of these people are willing to hold it or whatever. Like there's one, like literary magazines to me, like are helpful for getting read because anybody who will read a literary magazine will read anything. And I don't mean that. It's just that their subscription rates are so low that they have such a hardcore audience. It's not like Travel and Leisure that I'm going to get for free with my Delta points and I'm going to flip through it on Metro North and then go, pff. Like people who read literary magazines actually read them. But hold on, why did I even bring them up? Oh, there's one called Monkey Bicycle, and they have a thought leadership column called If My Book, and you do stuff like, if my book were an Olympic sport, it'd be rhythmic gymnastics. If my book were a state, it would be New Hampshire. Stuff like that, which, I don't know, it makes writers feel good about themselves. And maybe reason number 7 should have been to feel good about myself and not feel like my life is this great big abyss and hole of nothing. But they're one that you can send it into them almost like a year in advance and they will hold it until your release date. So, that's something that is done a great deal. Most other literary magazines, they don't hold it, but they'll just publish it up to 2 years after it's published.
Yeah, Trina, I think it's a good idea for all of us to aim high because, you're even looking at these things like the LA Times and stuff. The San Diego Union, mine happened to be about a crime that happened or an incident that happened in San Diego back in 1985. People are looking for content. They're looking for things that are interesting. You'd be amazed at how many of these publications will they don't. If you approach them and say, "I want to run something about my book," they're probably going to be like, "Well, I don't want that." But if you go and say, "I've just written a book about bank robbery," or the impact of such it's amazing what you can get out there. And my publicist was, and my publisher was very good at connecting with getting articles, just anything from Powell's bookstore in Portland, which is just this incredible indie or local bookstores, up to major publications, to these very niche websites or things like that. If they're related to your I'm looking at Al. Am I like blowing your ears out or something?
No. Nothing to do with you.
No, anyways, I just think, and I think that's what you're saying, Terena, as well. That is just, just get it out there. But writing articles for publications is great. Just slap your name on it, and on the end is like, this is your latest book. So,
well, and on
I
like
thought it was good.
You mentioned panels. I haven't checked them for a while, but for a while they actually had a blog that writers could write for. So. Yep.
I could add to that if I may. I wrote a book about traveling with children with autism, and I did about 100 podcasts for it. And I ended up writing for a lot of special needs magazines, which helped for sales. I sold to a lot of libraries. But because I had done that, I got covered in USA Today, and I got asked by Costco Connection to write stories, and they pay a lot more. I mean, you can make 1,000. I think I made like $1,200 because they sent it to a whole bunch of different editions. So you could be making good money for writers just for something like that. Now you write the small press. I mean, the special needs publications, I made nothing. I gave it to them for free because I wanted the exposure and I wanted to sell books, but Costco Connection paid.
But that's something where, like, the special needs publication, like, it's an example of where it's a magazine that somebody may or may not have heard of if they don't, like, if you don't have a child or a family member or a friend who has that particular special need, you might, like, if you don't have attention deficit, you might not have ever heard of attitude. It's ADD-atude. But the thing about it is, if I'm writing a book about a character with ADHD, and I don't know, like her mom or whatever, that's somebody, when we go to think about the target market, like, somebody's more likely to actually read the book if they read an article there about, oh, and the author's also got ADHD or whatever, as opposed to which I've placed people in Good Housekeeping, and it's great, and it actually was disability related, but like somebody to where it's a broader, I don't know, like Oprah magazine, like to where it might or might not be of interest to them or not. So it's targeted. It's more like those outer circles of the dartboard, and if you can go into something that is a very highly specialized, and it doesn't look as great for me, like when I'm trying to sell my wares, and it's like, oh, she's placed people with attitude, because people are like, what's attitude? And it doesn't sound as fancy to the people who are in the fame column, because they're like, well, what's attitude? But if your goal is to sell more or to be read, those highly specialized, almost trade publications are wonderful places to land. That's why it really goes back to what your goal is, and authors have to be honest with themselves. And a lot of times you may want more than one. Like I don't know anybody who, if you really break Sell More separately from being read down, goes, well, I want to be bestseller, but I don't care if anybody ever reads it. I like to hope we all want to be read, but the thing about it is, it's being aware of what your personal motivation, and it's not even goals so much as just what you really want down in your heart's desire for your career and your livelihood and your art. It's like, well, whenever push comes to shove, and whenever there is a difference between what you need to do to accomplish this and what you need to do to accomplish that, maybe you can go after both. It depends on how much money you have if you're hiring somebody, and how much time you have if you're doing it yourself. But when push comes to shove, a dollar spends once and an hour of our lives passes once. So it's just knowing to yourself which is most important to you, so you can go down that list first.
That's awesome. Terena, I'm going to ask the question that other people, I think, are going to want to know, and that is, do podcasts and social media not sell more? They're not in the sell more category.
Social media, I don't think social media sells anything. I really, really, really don't. Like, if you look, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the Author Central on Amazon, but like, if you're not all publishers participate in BookScan. I'd say the vast majority of the client, actually, I've never worked with an author who got daily BookScan. All right. So you've got to go into your Author Central, or you've got to wait until your monthly or quarterly royalties. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, and I'll flip to the next slide. I'm sitting there trying to figure out, how do I prove to them that this is working? How do I prove and know to myself that this is working when we can't see the numbers? A lot of authors I've worked with, they're still getting quarterly Excels. So if you go in, even if you're not self-published, like I actually thought it was for self-published people for a while. But if you set up your Amazon Author Central, they will show you your book scan on any book that is sold on Amazon, whether you posted it as a self-published author or whether the publisher posted it for you as traditional. But they'll show, however, it's like a week lag. Like it shows you through the like a Friday ago, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
But hold on now. What did you even say that it made me think about that with the book scan?
Well, it's the social media versus podcast. Do they sell anything? Because I don't know.
Yeah, you can look at a post, and this was like before Twitter imploded. But like when my book came out, and this was when my publisher did something odd where the first month that pre-orders were open, it was only open if you bought direct from publisher. She did not open up pre-orders through Ingram until later. And so I would post something on Twitter with the pre-order direct from publisher link, and you'd get like 100 likes. And then it goes, how did our pre-orders do? How did our pre-orders do? And I sold one, and it was my college roommate.
Oh.
And so people love to like you. People love to retweet you. People do not love to spend $20 on you.
No. Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing. It's just that there's a lot of falseness out there. Like there are people that call Facebook fake book, and people will go, oh, I love it. Like we all know, like you've had people lie and say, like I had a doorman or doorwoman actually, who when my book went into pre-order, I put something up on like the little bulletin board in my building. And she said, I scanned the QR code on your book last week. I got it. I've already read it. I love it. The first chapter is fantastic. Okay, first off, it was in pre-order, so it hadn't been shipped yet. And second, it was a short fiction collection. There are no chapters in a short fiction collection. She was lying through her teeth.
Or confused with another book.
Was it around Christmas? She wanted a big tip.
Maybe. I actually, like my dad actually kind of brought that one up, and I'm like, I don't know. But like there were other like, and this is also why I love presenting to a New York chapter, because like I think that if I were presenting to like a chapter in Kentucky, they'd say, "What's a doorman?" But my apologies to anyone watching.
They don't have doorman and sinking fork.
They probably do. Depends on where. Now, guys, we are coming to the end of the hour, so I'm doing the buzzer now.
All right.
Last questions. Get it in now, because then we'll be thanking our wonderful speaker today.
Could I just mention that I posted in chat a national directory of public libraries, which I use to go into their purchase suggestion forms and laboriously fill them out, and it sells at least as well as anything else I've tried.
Excellent. Thank you, Al. That's great. I saw the link. I got it. I clicked on it and it opened up a tab, which I will look at later. Thank you. Other questions from folks? Or
if you just give us a pitch as to why we should use an independent publicist on a book, either when we have a publisher or when we're doing it ourselves, and what can you do for us?
Yeah, my thing, well, what I can do for you is basically what I've done for you tonight, but just keep on doing it and then making it happen because I'm glamorous. But but to the part of me that is already feeling guilty for that being a little sales pitchy can say that to me, I would say that there are two reasons why you should pay somebody to do this. And they're the same two reasons why you should pay someone to do anything, whether it's clean your home or Instacart your groceries to you or whatever. Either one, you're not able to do it for whatever reason. You don't have the experience, you don't know who the contacts are, you don't even know where to start, you hate doing that kind of thing, it's not what you're suited for, etc. Or two, you don't have the time to. I did my own book. I didn't hire somebody. I also had worked in PR, in Midtown for 2 years, and I ran my own companies where I did the PR arm of it, and I'd been a reporter before. So that was a skill set that I had. So I would say that it's just like anything else with your book, whether, like there are people who they hire professional editors. Well, it's probably either because editing is not their strong suit or because they don't have time to go through and edit it. Like if we're all given infinite time and infinite strong suits, we do everything ourselves, but we're not. So it all comes back down to what is your focus as a writer? You know, does that make sense? I feel like it should be a why answer as opposed to a what answer.
No, I think it's
I'm
what
not the
what can
best
you do for us that we can't do for ourselves?
Well, I don't, it sounds like actually you're doing pretty good, Peter. You know, like you're talking about everything that Counterpoint is doing for you and the thought leadership and that kind of thing. But that's really just like everybody's goals are different. That's a question that I'd have to know. Like I'm just looking down names. Like I would have to
No, I
know.
didn't mean that to be a.
Go ahead.
I wasn't trying to mean that to be confrontational or anything.
Oh no, I know, I know.
You know, we're all in different levels of stuff, and I'm not
Right.
like, you know,
Right.
it just I
Right.
got a publisher, but a lot of us have great books out there, and just yeah, no, it's important. It's interesting to know what you can do, because I think in this world now, whether you have a publisher or not, there's people like you who are really important now, because the landscape's changing. I don't think even publishers know how do you sell books anymore. There's this world of influencers. I mean, you get some, you know, that just someone blasts something out to their 32 million followers and stuff. So just, I know we're running out of time, but just,
No, it's
you know,
okay. And
I think you have a great function, and I'm just trying to.
But that's one of the things that frustrates me to no end. If you're a publisher, you should know what sells books. And the thing about it is, if just little old me from Singing Fort, Kentucky, sitting here in my apartment on the Upper East Side can figure out ways to track whether this stuff is working. You want to know if library sales are working? If you're like you look at the Big Five and they have entire employees that all they do is library marketing. That is the job description. That would actually be my dream job if I ever quit doing this, right? You know, or couldn't become Stephen King overnight, which I'm still hoping for. But Mr. King, if you're watching this YouTube, please call me. No, but the thing about it is, like, do you want to know how you know if your library marketing is working? You know, you look at your card catalogs. How many is it listed in? You go to a website called WorldCat, which is basically the modern day version of what used to be the periodical guide for books and everything, where it can look up any book in the world and tell you what libraries it's in. You know, and you look and you see if that number is growing. You know, you look at the Amazon Central, and it frustrates me to no end when you just see these people that go, well, nobody really knows what sells books. And
Yeah, I hear you. Can you turn off the share so we can see you and thank you?
Yeah, no problem.
So in your last 10 seconds, even you gave me value. Thank you, thank you. And I have been writing lots of notes as well. Interesting perspective, and really made me introspect. Why do I want to market? What am I trying to do? I mean, we all want to sell books, but then what? Like, why do I want people to read my books? It's all those three whys. See what you started? So thank you. Thank you so much. I know our folks have gotten a lot of value. Go ahead, Terena.
If I may say one more thing. Yes, I do this for a living, but right now I'm not a PR rep. I'm your teacher. And there's always at least one student who's shy and doesn't want to ask a question. And sorry, I'm getting echoed somehow. There's always one student who's shy and doesn't want to ask a question in front of 20 other people. There's always somebody who thinks of a question as soon as the Zoom is over. Yes, I charge for my PR services, but follow-up questions to a class I've taught are always free. So I've put my email in the chat in case that is you. In case you don't want to ask in front of a bunch of people, or, you know, or whatever. Feel free to give me an email. You know, as long as I hear from you this week, I can help you out. So
Awesome, Terena. Thank you so much.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you, Terena.
Take care,
Thanks very
everyone.
much.